Welcome to a series called The End of Times, where we're going through the book of Revelation, verse by verse, to see what it is we should be doing and what it is we can expect to happen in the end times. And as we've gone through this book, we've spent really the last couple months talking about Babylon, talking about the harlot and the beast and the destruction of Babylon. We spent several episodes talking about the merchants of the earth and how they weep and what it is they say. And there's a peculiar thing that takes place after the merchants are done kind of sharing their thoughts, that a mighty angel does something. And we're going to pick it up right there in Revelation 18, starting verse 21. Then a mighty angel took up a stone like a great millstone and threw it into the sea, saying, "Thus with violence the great city Babylon shall be thrown down and shall not be found any more." This is an interesting passage because we've seen the destruction of Babylon prior, back in chapter 8 with the trumpets. And I said this said it in multiple episodes, but I definitely said at the beginning of the series is that you can't read Revelation like a book. It's not like this thing happens and that and then that. Oftentimes you'll see the same event take place multiple times from different viewpoints. And that's what we're seeing here. Is we're seeing an angel throw a meteor into the sea right outside Babylon, and it's going to destroy a third of the earth. So we're going to kind of go back to Revelation 8 for just a little bit, just because this is going to give us a timeline too. This kind of shows us when we see this stone being thrown at the earth, we can follow this timeline. We say, oh, we've seen this event happen, so we know it's going to take place after this and then before this thing. So if we go back to Revelation 8, and actually I'm going to go back to Revelation 17 first, because what it says is the 10 kings, the 10 horns are of one mind and of one accord. It says in 17:16, "And the 10 horns which you saw on the beast, these will hate the harlot, make her desolate and naked, eat her flesh, and burn her with fire." So keeping that in mind, that the nation of Babylon is first burned with fire, and then it's hit with a meteor, and then a third of the earth is darkened. So let's take a look at this. So here what you're seeing is the merchants of the earth were weeping because prior to that, in verse 7, the first angel sounded, and hail and fire followed, mingled with blood, and they were thrown into the earth. And a third of the trees were burned up, and all green grass was burned up. So there's a third of the earth getting destroyed. And the merchants of the earth, they weep about this, and they wail about it. But then a second angel sounded, and something like a great mountain burning with fire was thrown into the sea, and a third of the sea became blood, and a third of the living creatures in the sea died, a third of the ships were destroyed. So this isn't good news to the merchants. So ultimately what took place was a third of the earth was burned with fire. Then the merchants of the earth wept. Then this meteor or giant millstone was thrown by a great angel into the sea. And this is going to cause a third of the earth to be darkened, because what we see next in verse 10, this is when wormwood shows up and he poisons the hearts of men. So I just kind of want you to picture this for a second. There's 3.5 years of tribulation. This is war going on. There's famine, there's war, there's lots of death, but it's all man-made. People are looking at the world thinking, what has man done? Near the end of the 3.5 years, Babylon is destroyed by fire. Shortly after that, and we're near the end of the 3.5 years, a meteor strikes the earth, making a third of the earth dark. Right around then, wormwood comes and he poisons the hearts of men. So ultimately what you have is you have war, 3.5 years of war, but most of the world is enjoying it. They're thinking they're on the winning side. The only people really struggling through this are the remnant, as well as those who are supporters of the remnant. But then all of a sudden, the acts of God rain down, and that's what we're witnessing now. Then the third of the earth is darkened, but shortly after that, the entire planet is darkened. The bottomless pit opens up, smoke comes out and darkens the entire planet. And that's the darkness that Jesus was referring to in Matthew 24. It's the darkness that Isaiah talked about, it's the darkness Ezekiel talked about, and it's the darkness John sees in Revelation. So again, just to kind of follow this timeline, if we look at this angel throwing this great millstone where we're at, 3.5 years of tribulation, near the end, Babylon is burned with fire. Right after that, a meteor strikes. Wormwood poisons the hearts of men, and darkness then takes over the whole planet as the bottomless pit opens up Abaddon, the king of the bottomless pit, comes out with all his stinging scorpions, and this is when the acts of God just really start raining down on the earth. So that's kind of what we're looking at here. If we look at Revelation 18, the merchants of the earth had just kind of thought, what just happened to our business? Now that Babylon is destroyed, that's a third of the earth. So we're, if it is America, we're looking at North America, probably South America as well, or at least Central America, all being destroyed. And then a third of the earth is darkened because of that meteor, and then the rest of the world is darkened because the bottomless pit opens up. And that's kind of where we're at, right at the end of the 3.5 years of tribulation. Then we go an additional 45 days of darkness before Christ returns. So that's kind of what we're looking at. When we look at this verse, Revelation 18:21, then a mighty angel took up a stone like a great millstone, threw it into the sea, saying, thus with violence the great city Babylon shall be thrown down and shall not be found anymore. Once this darkness takes over the earth, a lot of things are taking place, but we're about to see the return of Jesus Christ. It's really a beautiful thing. So, any thoughts on that? Put in the comments below. Like this video? Click like and subscribe. Feel called to support this channel with Patreon. That link is also below. The most important part of this channel, we take prayer requests, so please don't ever hesitate to send that in. Thank you for watching this episode of God, Family, and Guns. And as always, love God, love your family, and love guns.